Hi, my name is James Hall, and I probably should have thought of a better intro than just, hey, my name is James Hall. But anyway, I have never owned any of the high-end lightsabers. I've looked at these things forever, they're very cool, but they're $300 all the way up to like $1,200. And I did find that you can get some online for about $100. And when I looked at it, I thought it was cool looking. I tried messing around with it. Great functions. You can change the color, the sounds, all sorts of stuff. But I decided it was kind of plain, so I wanted to modify it. My idea right now is to grab some different sheet metals, maybe experiment with some sculpting, maybe get some acid etching. I don't know. We'll find out. Okay, it did not take me long at all to get kind of fully invested in this whole lightsaber thing. I saw another one online, and it was copper instead of the silver one, and now I have two. So there goes the whole money-saving part of this adventure. One was silver aluminum, one was copper. I wanted them to match in some fashion. So I decided on patterns that I would place on both of them. The aluminum one will have copper laid over it. The copper one will have aluminum parts laid over it, as I've already done a little bit here. That way, these sync up. Now, in terms of what metal to use, that's easy. You can go to any hardware store or hobby store or art supply store, and you will probably find sheets of different kinds of metal. Copper, aluminum, they will come in hunks about that big. Copper will run you around $8. The aluminum will be about like $3. Nothing. You can cut them easily with just some nice cheap metal shears from the hardware store. The important thing is to decide on what you want to do before you start on it. Sketch it out, draw it out a little bit. Great thing to do is to take paper, because you can take some poster board or paper, make the design, cut it out, hold it onto the lightsaber, see what it looks like. A lot of time it helps to get something in 3 dimensions before you start working on it. Because a lot of times something looks really cool in 2D and doesn't translate well to 3D. What I've done here is I will sand down the parts where I want color. You can use just automotive enamel. You can get that again from hardware stores, auto supply stores, art supply stores. All these places sell it. You can get the little half cans. They're great. But you want some tooth to the aluminum, because paint does not like to stick to aluminum. So you sand it, put some primer on there, spray it on there, and it's easy to take these off because they do disassemble. These things come in 3 or 4 detachable pieces. That's how you get the electronics out. You slide out the bottom. It also lets you interchange some parts if the threads are the same. I can't change the parts between the copper and the silver because the threads do not match up. A little bit different measurements. But once you get those, you can start looking at it and see, well, what do I want to add to that? You can see where I cut copper strip out, rolled it around there. Do make sure to file and sand the edges. When you cut metal, you're basically making a great big razor blade. I've got more than one scar in my hand for me learning a really important and unpleasant lesson about being careful with sheet metal. You can also see that I have drilled into the top ring here, because I wanted it to match this. This came with that, so you see the blade color through there, and that was cool looking. It's another way I can make these match. And again, I wanted to make them opposing, kind of like matching sets, like twins, but you know, opposite ones. Okay, this is the sleeve that I made to fit over this part to match the other blade. Now, as you see, this started off as a flat piece of copper, and it now slides over the hilt. Shaping this is not that hard. If it was a hunk of steel, it'd be much more difficult. Happily, copper and aluminum are a lot friendly. All right, here you can see that I've slid the sleeve into place. It's about where I want it. And I wanted an accent piece on this. I wanted something to kind of break that pattern up. And I'll be adding more stuff later on. I haven't quite decided what I want to put here. Most likely what I'm going to do is add some kind of crest, some kind of symbol. I've looked at a couple of options. I can etch into it using various acids. I have some hydrochloric acid here, rather not play around with that stuff if I can avoid it. It is hydrochloric acid. I wanted some kind of nice little piece that goes along like that. So, of course, cut out a template, fit it on there, see how it looks. The next thing is to fit it in place, and I'm going to be bolting the entire thing on there. This piece, all of it goes onto here. I've got everything clamped in place. Now I'm drilling the holes and tapping them so I can go ahead and put a screw directly into the lightsaber. Okay, this is what I've got so far for the lightsaber. At least this is the copper one. You can see that I've laid the sheet metal on there and bolted it in place. But they still look a little bit on the plain side to me. So what I'm probably going to do is sculpt some, just little relief sculptors and lay them on here. That's going to be a little bit more of an involved process, because I think what I'm going to do is make those out of clay, pop them off, mold them in silicone, and cast them in metal. What I've done here is wrap the saber in a layer of tin foil. That way I've got a nice barrier that I can lay the clay onto without worrying about it leaving smudges and oiling spots all over the saber, and without worrying about how I'm going to get it off of there. All I have to do here is stick it in the freezer, wait till it hardens up, pull it off, and then just gradually peel the foil off the back of the sculpture. Here are the sculpted pieces all set to be molded. I've attached them to little clay cones and sprued them so there shouldn't be any air bubbles that pop up. You can see in there's kind of all arranged in a circular pattern, so they can all go into this as a mother mold. Just a red solo cup, nothing fancy. Just seal down some nice soft clay. Anytime you're doing silicone molds, make sure that the clay is sulfur free. If it's got sulfur in it, the silicone will not cure, and you'll just end up with a big, expensive, gloppy mess. Here I'm using a 2-part silicone. All you do is mix it in even amounts into a container and stir it up, pour it in, and you've got a cure time of about 6 hours. If you don't have a vacuum chamber to suck all the bubbles out of these things, what you want to do is pour it and then tap it a little bit, just to kind of make sure that you're getting all the bubbles to come to the surface. This particular silicone is pretty good about this kind of thing. It's the next day and the silicone is cured. Pulled all the clay positives out. Now it's time to go ahead and try casting these things in some metal. This is what I'm going to be using to actually cast it. And this is really useful stuff because it's just lead-free solder. You can find this at any hardware store. This little spool cost me about $30. Not bad at all. And the nice thing about this stuff is it has a melting temp that's less than 500 degrees. And the temperature tolerance for silicone is right about 500 degrees, if I remember correctly. You can see that I'm just melting the solder on a regular, just gas-powered stovetop. And I'm using a little miniature cast iron skillet. It's adorable. And then you just pour it into the mold and give it time to cool off. Alright, a little bit messy, but that's sculpture. Pieces themselves came out pretty good. I'm actually pretty happy with these things. Now comes the long, long task of cleaning up the castings. Alright, these are all done. All I have to do now is put the blades back in them. I've reinstalled the electronics, bolted all the cast pieces in place. They came out pretty good. And then I went ahead and put just like a dark wash on it. Wiped it back off. Real easy, just water down a little bit of acrylic paint. That way the details on the cast places pop and it gives the piece overall just a little bit more age. Here you can see that I put the polycarbonate blades back into the sabers, and I did some modifications there too, because this saber was held in with just a screw there and a screw there. The blade would wobble back and forth. It just created a hinge more than anything. So I drilled and tapped 3 new holes there, blades nice and sturdy. I moved the hole up on this one a little bit just because the blade came down and it only caught the edge. It didn't really secure it all that well. So now those are back in place, and that's about the last step. Don't worry, I'm not going to start trying to twirl these things. Ugh. My coordination is not good enough. I just look like Herman Munster. Same thing when I tried dancing. Ugh. the dark side saber up top, I decided to go ahead and add the symbol of the Sith, surrounded by some flames down near the base. And near the tip, I decided this saber is all about inflicting suffering. So I've got a sculpture of somebody being devoured by a serpent. And on the light side saber, I've got the symbol of the Jedi Order there with the wings and the stylized lightsaber blade. And near the tip, I've got rays of light spreading out. Other side, I went with a Krayt Dragon for the dark side saber, which I thought looked really cool on the Mandalorian. And I was happy to see in the special features that it actually does have lots of legs, you just can't see them, it's underground. And I thought, well, that'd be fun to stylize and carve in there. And on the light side saber, I went with the Starbird, which is, it's Star Wars speak for a phoenix. And I just love the way that looked with the tail stretching out, and I thought that would be a lot of fun to carve. Just a little point though, anytime you get into sculpting scales or feathers, you're gonna regret that choice after about an hour and a half of putting those things on the surface. So, I'm very happy I went ahead and drilled the holes to match slits in this saber. Yeah, overall, these are gonna be really fun to annoy the living hell out of my wife with. Yeah, that's gonna get her nerves.